The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there, welcome to the show. It's brought to you with Levi's Solicitors, isn't it, Michael?
Correct.
I've immediately looked at you there. Are you ready for today's talk up?
Yeah, definitely.
Go on then.
What's probate conveyancing?
Thank you very much. 10% discount on your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Employee dispute resolution. Is that a thing?
Probably.
Sounds about right.
Employment law. Let's put it under that.
So, for example, if you've got a little dickhead who works for you, who's legally bound by a contract, and
Not me, to be clear.
No, it is.
Oh, okay.
Who is not? Yeah, but you know what I'm on about Willie Non. It's a really thinly veiled reference to Willie Nonto. So, Will's probate conveyancing.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
do that stuff too.
levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball for your 10% discount. Thank you to Levi's for tolerating that. Moscow's here as well as we do propaganda, which is the show where we find out what's been said in the football world. Bit of Leeds United, bit of other stuff. Where do we start today, Michael Normanton?
I feel like we need to start with City Extra.
Right, okay.
And it's not a clip. It's the end of an era. Because I've tried listening to them since this news. The magic's just not there anymore. It's gone.
City Extra, for anybody who doesn't know, is the Man City...
who was the Man City fullback? I believe he's gone or he's going.
Consuelo.
He's off to Barcelona, isn't
Bro. They called each other bro a lot.
Yeah.
And we loved them. They were great. Genuinely quite...
endearing,
quite an endearing pair, but one of them, the older one, we always thought they were actual brothers, didn't we? Because they called each other bro.
Yeah.
And the younger one just agreed with what the older one said most of the time. But it seems that, well, either they're not brothers or he's given a really impersonal statement because he says, I wish CX all the best going forward.
So what's the news? You've not said what the news is.
He's leaving, the older one.
The older one is
It's
leaving.
LB, which is a shame. And you read his little statement in his voice as well, which is...
Could Moscow do that?
I mean, no, because let's say, like, he's leaving because his mental health has taken a hit and it's important to take some time away. So I'm not going to make fun of this young man with his statement. I will make fun of him for the times when he say "Consuelo" because that was funny. I don't know if maybe having his little mate just agreeing with him all the time has kind of started getting him down, and that's why he's wanted to go away. But it's a shame because they've not finished, have they? So I don't know why you presented it in such awful. They did one of my favourite things of the summer, which was I don't know which player they were tracking. It might have been Guardiola, who we wanted at one point before he was good. Like they'll just get the sellout players. But yeah, they took plane tracking to its absurd conclusion by live streaming footage of the runway as a private jet was coming into land. And they had three of them there, and they had all the stuff. They had all the explosions going on, and they had the
not at the airport.
Not at the airport. They were
sound effects.
Yeah, they were playing their air horn sound effects and all the stuff, and it's genuinely. I only saw a couple of minutes of it that got shared on Twitter and places, but I really liked where they were going with that, like leaning into just how ridiculous a lot of this stuff is. So I hope he's all right. Old LB, he's going to. He says he's going to keep putting stuff on his personal YouTube
he is doing
channel.
stuff. And I watched that, and I watched City Extra. It's just not the same.
Is it like when your favourite band broke up?
It's like Oasis splitting or something.
When Robbie left, take that. Is that how you taking it as bad as that?
Yeah, they're all kind of. They're still sort of both going, but people don't want the solo stuff so much.
Put the band back together.
Come on. Yeah. Get this back together.
Is this where he's starting the campaign now to get them to?
I think so. I don't even know if there'll be any more flames in the chat.
Right.
That's not flames. That's air horns, but they have them too. So it was all so good.
Air horns do go with flames. I do wonder,
I'll keep an eye
on some of our shows. Maybe we need sound effects. Maybe this is how we embrace it. You know, like Gen Z and the youth.
We've got this.
Yes,
slightly overpriced reception bell.
Sound effects straight from.
Are you being served?
Yeah, that's exactly.
I do like the bell. It was a nice addition. It's just a little. No.
It's quite nice.
So City Extra, we will keep tabs on them, and hopefully there's a grand reunion somewhere further down the line when he realises the solo act is not.
They'll realise there's plenty of money in the arena tours.
Yeah.
They'll get back together, won't they?
When their scrappy little football team overcomes the odds to look its way or battle its way to a trophy at the end of the season. They don't want to be celebrating on two different streams, do they? So maybe that'll be the thing that brings them together, because they didn't win
Cross the streams like Ghostbusters.
Didn't win the Charity Shield.
Oh, gutted about it. I'm
so
sure.
already, first this, now losing the Charity Shield to Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. And perhaps these are all the signs that Manchester City are actually falling apart, although they dealt quite well with Burnley.
Yeah, it was pretty swift.
And then I was reading about how they're now just playing the goalkeeper in as a centre back. Have you seen this is the new thing?
What, for a laugh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why else Pep Guardiola would be doing this, but yes. So they now, you will look at their like a screenshot of their formation in the game, flat back four, except one of the centre backs is the goalkeeper,
right?
And it's a guaranteed overload.
So is this when John Stones pushes into midfield, they have a goalkeeper steps in to be the back four?
Yeah, it's a guaranteed overload because people don't understand what to do if the goalkeeper starts playing in like further forward than some of the defenders.
Yeah,
but he's got the ball. That's the thing. He's got the ball.
Ah, okay.
So it's kind of to overcome.
Get it off him.
It's a bit of a way of overcoming, because Vincent Kompany is doing, at Burnley, who they were playing, is doing man-to-man marking, or at least he was against Manchester City, which obviously we all hated when Marcel Bielsa did it, but now Vincent Kompany's doing it. Well, they lost 4-1, so there's not really a point to be made. But yeah, to overcome all their outfield players being marked, Guardiola's just playing his goalkeeper, basically shoving him up the field with the ball. He was doing it against Bayern Munich. This is all Athletic article I read.
Thanks, Moscow.
So if anybody wants to get more into that,
read
there
that.
you go. Yeah, so maybe we could try it with Ilham Melier, see how he fancies bringing the ball up to the centre circle and bit of distribution.
Just on this, Michael, people always tweet and saying, oh, he's the funny one and stuff like that. Don't you think about leaving us?
Often, yeah.
Because if you go off and start your own channel or whatever, or Michael's funny channel, whatever.
There'll be flames in the chat then.
We'll fucking bury you.
No flames.
I'm just telling you.
No flames in the chat here. I was just thinking about Burnley. Do you know what? Have we covered this? That Bailey Peacock Farrell's on loan from there?
Yeah, he's
with
teamed up
Uwe
with Uwe
Rosler,
Rosler, hasn't he?
Of course he is.
But he's gone as the reserve.
Bless him.
Yeah, and they said that they wanted the joke we did at the time,
which Michael wasn't listening to,
about they wanted like different kinds of goalkeepers. It's felt like now we have different types of goalkeepers, and I said yes. One good one, and Bailey Peacock Farrell. So
you're being mean about him again.
Well, bless him, he'll be fine.
Come on then, Splitter. Let's crack on.
Well, from the high energy we used to get from City Extra, should we go chatting blues?
Yep.
It's Birmingham. We'll hear from the Birmingham commentator in a bit, but we got from that, it was basically the greatest day in Birmingham's history, was this.
Is that because Tom Brady was there?
Pretty much, yeah.
We're going to talk about him, actually, aren't we?
But this is how that best day of your life comes through in a Brummie accent. It's pretty dour.
Like I said, 2-1 to Blues, I did, and like I'd like to like. I think that was more out of positivity. Yeah, I think if I'd give you my truthful answer, I'd have said a draw. You know, I would have said a draw. So to come away 1-0, and it just felt like on the day, it felt like. It just felt like the whole day, the whole experience. I mean, I was in the Roost before the game, and like that Tom Brady, Gary Cook, and Wagner. They all come from. I think they tried to get through the bar, got kind of mobbed, and then they came around the back, and there was just. I did actually put the photo of them up on my Twitter account on Chatting Blues. They'd just got in, and then they kind of got mobbed. And now the whole day, man, just felt like just a completely different atmosphere. And you know, I don't know about anyone else. Like, we didn't look like losing, and like. Just like I said before, the footballing gods were looking down on us, man, and it just the whole day was unbelievable, man. You know, I'd like to go into a little bit more detail about it as well, but
I've heard enough. Frankly, I wanted to stop him at the footballing gods because I've never heard Dan James described that way before. I know he smiles.
Went on for half an hour, that clip.
I know. I just heard it.
Maybe he was just tired at the end of a long day, but I didn't get the sense that was one of the best days ever. No. I've just
How long was that clip?
About a minute and too long.
Quite went on, didn't it?
Minute and 28, that. Could have edited that down, couldn't you, for brevity? But I realised why you didn't.
That was the best bit. The rest of it was him going through, I know we used to take the piss of whoscored.com. It was literally him clicking on each player going, he had 14 completed passes, ground jewels, 1, 2 out of 3.
I mean, I was doing exactly the same thing last week, so I can't really.
Can I...
But for every player through the whole team, and it really at that pace.
Apropos of nothing, can I just read you some excerpts from this Guardian article from the 4th of April 2008, which opens with the line, "Silence could well be golden for ambitious Brummies after research found people with the distinctive nasal Birmingham accent were seen as stupid, while those with the Yorkshire twang were considered clever."
There you go.
This is a study into dialect. The Yorkshire accent is rated as the most intelligent sounding, beating received pronunciation, which is the BBC old-fashioned accent, isn't it? The accent of royalty in public school alumni for the first time. So people are saying that back then, so it's only probably got better since then. They reckon that Yorkshire's dead good, better than posh, and better than silence as well. Birmingham actually scored lower than silence out of 10.
Bless him.
And finally, the kicker to this. Do you know who it was who wrote this article? David Batty was the name of the journalist.
Well, it seems completely neutral then.
Comprehensive and well thought out research.
1st of April, this?
No, it's not 4th. It was.
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
2008, back then. Do you remember that?
I was going to say good times, but they weren't, were they? We were in League One.
I think something special is happening in Yorkshire, this person added. With the closure of the mines, people are no longer associating Yorkshire with trouble at pits. Leeds has a lot of money and is a buzzy place.
Nowhere has a lot of money now, do they? Brilliant. No. Oh, well.
This was just before the 2008 crash, that, wasn't it? Well done, everyone. Where are we going next, Michael?
Should we hear the Birmingham commentator, who a genuinely enthusiastic man?
Yeah, so for those people listening on the visual radio, may have encountered the Birmingham commentator in their search for coverage of the game. Mm-hmm. He was enthusiastic, more so than perhaps that gent from Chatting Blues.
Yes, very much so.
A huge moment for the history of Birmingham City Football Club. St Andrews, primed to erupt, poised in waiting. They've thirsted for this moment. Djukovic!
Get in!
And just listen to this place! Just listen to this place! The sound of revived St Andrews, roaring loud and proud again. A club resurrected, a fan base reborn.
It's 3 points against a really threadbare squad.
I don't want to be
in a terrible game.
I don't want to be the celebration police in the same way as you get people on. It's normally someone like Jason Cundy or someone on Talk Sport will say, they're celebrating like they won the Champions League there when someone's got like a last minute win. I can understand people celebrating stuff, but
the hyperbole there was quite something, wasn't it?
That was quite a lot.
A historic day. And I know it's because Tom Brady was in town, new ownership, and they probably feel like they've been downtrodden.
I will counter the criticism slightly by reminding us of Luke Murphy's last-minute winner to celebrate GFH's first day when we...
That came to mind for me as well.
We were shrugging off Ken Bates. I think we were probably similarly carried away at that point. I was just looking...
Thank God we haven't started this show then.
The Birmingham City... So Gary Cook, who is their CEO, I think they've also obviously... because he was the CEO at Manchester City for a long time. He's gone straight out today with an open letter to supporters saying, you made it a day to remember for our new owner, Tom Wagner, which I find a little bit weird. I mean, the whole thing is weird, like the whole Cowtown show ownership stuff as well, but like as if we gave like a millionaire a nice day out, not we, but the Birmingham fans, like, you made it a day to remember for our new owner, Tom Wagner. And it's like all the Birmingham fans, like, yes,
he's had a tough life.
That's why we paid £30 a ticket. So a millionaire had a nice day, but all that, and yeah, they experienced a renovated stadium. Did it look renovated?
It felt
getting there.
It felt very sort of early to mid 90s to me. Did that games going on with the big blank space where the renovating grounds? I guess it was all the sort of post Hillsborough Stadium reconstructions that went on, but there was loads of that, wasn't there, for a time where you'd get a boarded end of a stadium, or you could see men in hard hats stood around on kind of half completed bits of concrete.
He's got his tenses wrong here. It's a renovating stadium rather than a renovated. An excellent team performance to defeat Leeds United, one of the favourites for promotion. This guy does not know ball, does he? And yeah, they're saying everything was great about it. And the global media followed Tom Brady and Tom Wagner into the Roost and the George. It showed them celebrating with you all when we scored, and then listened intently when they shared their feelings after the match. Birmingham and Birmingham City was in the spotlight. And then fans were exemplary. This morning, the management team went through every aspect of the fan experience on the day. We reviewed what you told us, things that worked, things that fell below expectations. It's clear there are infrastructure improvements to be made so that our staff can deliver a better service, especially making it easy to enjoy and purchase food and beverages. I'm not getting quite the clean your own fucking pie off the walls vibe from this that I was getting from our club until recently. Maybe this is the Tom Brady effect.
But what they've got now, Moscow, is they've got new shiny American owners who talk a good game.
Quite literally shiny.
Yes.
Sports stars from the world of the NFL.
Did you see? I mean, I know we've been absolutely bodied by them moving us off BBC One Match of the Day, primetime Saturday night TV at 10:20 or whatever. They've stuck us on ITV4, so you can watch us a little bit earlier, but it's on ITV4 and it's the EFL, which quite frankly feels like an insult to this grand old football club. But then you're on ITV, the main ITV channel, at about midnight or something like that. And I happened to flick across and catch the start of the EFL highlights over the weekend. So it was an accident. I can only apologise for me doing it. But I did see the bit of our game, and the game itself was very, very short-lived. But then they spent like an unnatural amount of time talking to Tom Wagner and Tom Brady. Like, you thought it was going to be like a punchy magazine piece. And they just kept asking him questions, the most inane questions. Yeah,
they did it last week with Neil Warnock. So it's the same thing. And also they spoke to a lot of Plymouth people last week as well. I was quite entertained by the highlights on the ITV show, because the game is kind of, I felt like I couldn't remember anything.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So I was like, I'll watch the highlights.
And there weren't
remind us what happened. And they showed Dan James where he chested the ball down and volleyed it over in the first half. That was the first half highlights. Then there was the header from a corner that Birmingham put wide. There was
Sam Byram's head at the other end.
Was that even included? Was that in it?
I don't know if it made it.
I don't think it made it. Then there was Dembele running at Luke Ayling when Luke Ayling just kind of got in front of him and Ayling flopped the ball out for a corner. Then there was the penalty, and then I think there was a bit of Rodon going up front, the end. Yeah. Done in, and so it confirmed in my mind, it's like, no, my brain was not deceiving me. There was nothing to remember from that game.
Yeah. Tom Brady's face, though, is interesting. Is an interesting one. He's a divisive figure, is Brady, in the States, isn't he? You either love him if you're a Patriots fan or whatever, and maybe some of the old Tampa Bay, whatever they are. Are they still the Rowdies that play the American football at Tampa Bay, whatever?
Could be.
Yeah, they do.
Buccaneers.
I've
got his wiki open in front of me, actually, because I was just wanting to check how old he was.
Yeah, he's older than me, which I find absolutely mad.
You look just as young.
Thanks, mate.
And in just as good shape.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate you there.
He's weird looking, though, isn't he?
He's like a doll, isn't he?
You're a much more human-looking sort of character,
which is very much what I'm aiming for.
Like when you have an expression there, like you raise your eyebrows, and like
you can see the creases.
We all do it. You raise your eyebrows, like as almost as a natural thing, don't you?
Yeah, because the elasticity in your skin changes,
and
as you get
your
older,
face changes, and like around your eyes, if you smiled, you'd like your eyes would kind of
show it,
pinching, wouldn't it? Edges. Tom Brady, really weird. Only his mouth moves on his face.
Like a human Ken doll.
I found it really disturbing to watch him talking. I wasn't really listening to what he was saying because I was just looking at various bits of his face and going, God, none of them move.
We're really proud to be here in Birmingham.
But yeah, well done to him, I suppose. He's 46. He does look, I suppose he looks... I mean, I'm not 46 yet, am I? So who knows how good I'll look when I'm 46. Probably just reaching my prime.
I think it'd be funny if I won the lottery in the next 12 months before I turn 46. And if I just showed up one day, hair looking like Tom Brady's, face barely moving, just completely. So I was saying about you, if you turned up one day, like, you know that meme about Shearer, if he just turned up one day and nobody said anything, he just had like a hair transplant.
Just come back from my summer holidays.
Yeah. if I just did that one day, just turned up and looked like a doll. Oh, hello, lads.
I mean, Brendan Rodgers sort of did it, didn't he, for a while? Mm. And Shane Warne. Do you remember him when he went away and came back with like nice new teeth and had lost a couple of stone?
Yeah. Good hair as well. He had his hair done, didn't he? Of course, because you've seen the adverts. Anyway, we've got waylaid.
We have a bit. Should we hear some... Do you want to hear some happy Leeds fans? Or, well,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
No,
I would love to hear a happy Leeds fan.
I say happy Leeds fans, not completely miserable Leeds fans.
Right,
You can have completely miserable, or sort of still trying to cling to something.
Let's have the clingers.
All right, let's have the Klingons first.
Scott White, the Kentucky Yorkshireman, reporting in from Grasmere, Cumbria. What a match. Shazam. Well, while everyone is in panic mode, my advice is be calm, carry on, trust in Farke. Way too early to worry. Why on earth is everybody wringing their hands over all these outgoings and so-called lack of loyalty? Where on earth have the clubs ever been truly loyal to players? Can't blame the lads at all. Let's just focus, get our new guys in. We got 2 weeks to go.
And that's Drew had a very good game and looked more confident. That goal during the week helped him. I thought Ampadu was absolutely brilliant again, and we need to sign 8 more players like him. That'd be great. And a striker. Let's sign a striker.
Right. We need to move forward. As Coop says, fuck off if you don't want to play in a Leeds shirt. We have a good manager, and we'll get behind him and the team. It's down to you now, 49ers, to be fucking aggressive and back us on this. So come on, Leeds. We could do something this season. I still believe it. There's still another bloody 44 games of this shite to go. But let's keep the faith. Keep going. Come on, Leeds.
It makes me quite happy that despite having a total dog shit 11 out and a dog shit performance, we were still a daft foul away from getting a 0-0 draw against someone in this league. We'll be fine. Either get rid of the absolute shit shows and get some new players in, or get them to change their mind and play. Either way, half a decent squad and we're fine in this league. Be positive. I think.
I was waiting. I thought you'd maybe not edited the end off the clip, but no, it was good.
I thought I'd leave the pause for dramatic effect.
Another 44 games of this shite.
That was the positive clip.
Yeah.
The last point is one I was kind of thinking of over the weekend because of all the things that were miserable about the weekend's events. I think what really shone about or didn't shine about the game was how quickly we've just slipped back into completely forgettable championship matches where nothing happens, nobody remembers them, and from years to come they start blurring into one, partly because there's so many games in this division, which I always moan about, but partly because there are just those games. It's the real feature of when we were last in this division, of getting to Monday and thinking that game might as well not have happened.
So like QPR on a Wednesday, Reading on a Wednesday.
Yeah. There's
tedious shit.
One that always sticks out is when Michael completely forgot about us playing Rotherham in the FA Cup. Just a game that, and I remember being there, but the details of the day and it just, none of it sticks out. Whereas, we've maybe been spoiled recently, but even the times when we were getting battered by teams, you'd remember something about the match. Whereas this was just, as the last person was saying, we're actually, probably reasonably close to winning it. If we hit a ball at the goal, that's probably all we needed to do, and it might have gone in.
If we'd had a striker, it could have helped.
If Dan James had noticed the guy running out on over his shoulder and not clattered into him, fine, 0-0, big deal, just nothing. And we kind of avoided that with the first match against Cardiff because it had the late equaliser and it's all exciting and lots of stuff happening, and then boom. And it will be one of those lineups as well. I think the thing about the team sheet is you'll use that as a quiz question years to come. Can you name the team that played in the 1-0 defeat to Birmingham in August 2023? And a few years from now, it's going to be, Shackleton played. Really? And who was number 10? We must have had number 10. Or we'll be like, oh, well, that was the season that we signed whoever. So did they play? It's like, no, it was Jan Paveda.
And you go,
that player wasn't there yet. Yeah, and it'll all dawn on you and you think, how did we ever get through this?
The Championship game I'd forgotten. It came up a while ago because I think for some one of the guides or something, I might have come across it. But when we lost 5-1 to Bolton at home in the McDermott era, and I'd completely forgotten about it.
That didn't happen.
And that was why I came across it as a result, and I was like, I just don't think...
That can't be a thing.
I just don't think that necessarily happened. But do you know, I just looked up that game. Do you know, I'm going to do a quiz for you. Do you know who scored the second goal for Bolton that day?
Rodrigo.
It was Djokovic.
Of course it was.
I guess that's the other sad aspect of our return is that he's just scoring against us again. He'll probably get a move on loan to some other Championship team so he can do it again and then go back to Birmingham for when they visit us. The other thing to cling to in that was Ampadu. Brilliant. Just sorts everything out, doesn't he?
So if we can sign players, we can sign good ones.
Yeah. And not for a lot of money either. Like in the grand scheme of things, I know it's a hospital wing, but what is it, 7 million rising. So if that's the kind of quality we can get for 7 million, I don't know if it'll take a while to get used to what he's like as a player, but I don't even know like quality, because you associate that with being like creative on the ball, which is the thing that we really lack and stuff. But what I like about him so far is that he just fixes things.
He's tidy. He tidies up.
Yeah. If there's a problem, he's running there to sort it out. Rocker would still be thinking about...
Cat stuck up a tree. There's Ampadu.
He's up there to sort. But yeah, any loose ball, if anybody misses a tackle, he comes with the next one. If there's a pass goes astray, he's there to stop it being a problem. If there's a cross coming into the penalty area, he's there to head it clear.
Little Jimmy's fallen down a well. He's there with a rope, climbing down.
So, like Ampadu a lot, he was good.
Good stuff. Should we do the bloodletting then?
Let's get it out of the way.
Birmingham City finished 17th in the Championship last year. We've got nothing going forward. When Rutte came on and then started drifting to the left corner flag, I just thought it was unbelievable. At the moment, I'm wondering if we're going to be able to have enough to even get into the playoffs, never mind automatic. I think they might be looking at a mid-table finish. Just not good enough.
Evening, lads. I've had a pint and I've had a curry, so if now's not prime reflection time, there never is one. I can't believe having had Premier League money for 3 years, we fielded an 11 that bad. 4 lads up top who weren't good enough last year, so got loaned out. It was an Ampadu away from a League One side that today, wasn't it? If that team from today played the whole season, we're going down, I think.
There's only one word that can describe today. Well, 2 words really. Fucking inept.
When that penalty went in, I weren't angry. I was just disappointed. It's just been shite from the word go this season. I know we're only 2 games in, but wow, it does look bad. Anyway, Friday night, West Brom. Make sure you get absolutely bladdered before the game because you don't want to watch that shower of shite.
I've heard a lot of Leeds fans say this summer, things like, oh, Rutter and Dan James, they're going to tear up the Championship. Oh, they're great options in the Championship, those two. What's that based on? What have they ever done in a Leeds United shirt to suggest they're good enough for the Championship? Absolute wank. It's going to be a long season, isn't it? It's going to be a long, long season.
That is the squad of an aggressive transfer window. Fuck my life.
I enjoyed the sort of very sinister undertone to that last one.
Like he was commentating on snooker.
Yeah. Or he was hidden in a cupboard waiting to pounce.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I mean, there is time.
There's loads of time, but that doesn't make the present any more fun, does it? A mate of mine, Neil, texted me and just said, football's supposed to be the escape, but now I'm finding things to do to escape from the football. Which is how it feels at the minute.
Yeah, I've been watching a documentary about the Troubles in Northern Ireland instead of watching Match of the Day. That's how I've been spending my evenings.
Right.
So
great fun.
That's been a distraction, I suppose. Not great as a whole, but yeah, I've not watched any Match of the Day or Football League highlights. I don't know who's on it. Clem, Manish, one of them. I imagine one of them is doing it still on. Colin Murray, is he still doing it? I've not watched it anyway. So yeah, I've been trying to distract myself.
It is fair to say they fucked it, haven't they? I think the thing that's standing out at the moment is as player after player leaves on loan after loan, is that the predictability of this makes the lack of the visible aggression in the transfer market to this point even more bewildering. Especially, I think Jack Harrison's loan clause is an interesting thing that's come up, because that, regardless of when it was negotiated, when they put it in the contract, like there's obviously some foolishness if it was put in there in April when we're about to get relegated anyway. It would be absolutely blatantly obvious to me that him and Tyler Adams would be going, not only because of whatever they intend to do, but because of how easy it is.
Yeah, that's what I said to Phil on Monday's show. What did they think would happen when they did this? What did they think would happen?
What they've not thought.
What was the likeliest outcome? Because it's the path of least resistance, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So what they've not thought to do is to do anything about it to mitigate it in advance, and that's what seems foolish to me at the moment. The loans thing. I know that there's a great deal of anger about the loan clauses, and I'm not angry about it at the moment because I just don't understand it. I get it with the Brendan Aronson aspect that he might appreciate in value, but until somebody can explain to me what the actual thinking is behind giving everybody a loan clause beyond just giving footballers what they want, I can't, if I don't understand it, I'm not angry about it. It's just like, this is flummoxing to me. That
from what Phil said, Moscow, he was suggesting that essentially they didn't want to be lumbered with a massive wage bill. So in negotiating the wage drop of 50 to 60%, they mitigated that by saying, well, here's a path out then if you don't want to accept that.
Yeah, but then, and so
it's probably fear of on Radrazani's part of being lumbered with a massive wage bill in the Championship that he couldn't afford to support again, because it must have crept up towards 130 million, maybe 140.
Yeah, but then having made it easy to then reduce the wage bill, they haven't done anything, it seems, to then make it easy to actually have a viable squad in its place. And that's the part where I'm confused, and where I'm angry at what they've not done is, if the loan clauses exist, and if you know how easy it is going to be for Tyler Adams, for Jack Harrison, for Luis Estera, for all of the players that arrived from Jesse Marsh's contact book, how easy it's going to be for all those players to leave on loan without any fees coming in, there needed to be a better strategy for dealing with that than let's hope we can persuade some of them to stay, which seems to be what it's... And going back to
because you've given up control of the situation, haven't you? Yep.
Yeah, and going back to that Daily Mail article and how they tried to present some of this, where it says...
that hard-hitting one Ian about.
While those involved want to keep the precise details to themselves for obvious reasons, a third-party data company was commissioned to uncover what it takes for a relegated club to make an immediate return. Their findings were myth-busting and many. While they are not being treated as gospel, they have formed part of the club's planning, and what can be said is that retention and know-how formed a key element. So it seems like the plan has been, let's hope that Tyler Adams wants to stay, and that has persisted beyond him having a medical at Chelsea and them deciding to sign somebody else instead. Well, no, mate, let's still hope he stays. Hoping he stays is not...
It's not a strategy,
It's not a strategy. And a strategy would have been, and I always feel it's easy in hindsight, but the thing is, they knew this was coming. So the strategy for this summer, if I was running this, would have been sort out in July who is staying and who is not, and then approach the window. Because the thing about it doesn't feel like we need players to leave to be able to sign players, because all the players are leaving on loan. So it's not like we're waiting for fees to come in so that we can spend that money on players to replace them. They're all going for nothing. We can predict what the FFP effects are going to be. We can predict what the cash flow effects are going to be. You could look forward, and it's only a matter of looking forward 6 weeks to saying, well, if Jack Harrison is available on a loan, it's obvious that somebody in the Premier League is going to take him. So we need to do something about that before it happens. And yet we've got to this point. I mean, the striker situation is not even related to that, because it's not like Pat Bamford's going to have a loan clause triggered by anybody.
Why?
Because he's injured.
Yes, correct.
But the fact that there is not, that we are now hearing from Angus Kinnear that we're in for a player. Well, he told some people at a service station, didn't he? That we're
reportedly so, we don't know for sure.
Yeah, we're in for a player, and they said, is it Perot? And he said, no, it's somebody who we think is just as good, which is immediately
it's the two international number 9s and best young striking talent and all that.
Who do we think is just as good as Perot? But so if the whole strategy, as dictated by a third-party data company who was commissioned and paid to uncover what it takes for a relegated team, I mean, it is great advice. If you've got a load of good players, keep them all. But at some point, you've got to go to all those players and go, do you want to stay? And if they're all like, well, maybe. And that's not a...
Well, did you notice they were flummoxed by Max Verber? Because I think they went to him and said, do you want to stay? And he went, yep. And then he went, nah.
So you've maybe got to look at your players in more depth than a third-party data company allows you. And yeah, if the players are straight out lying, then there's not a lot you can do about it. But with players like, I don't think Harrison has never struck me as the kind of person who will lie about his intentions or disguise what he's going to do for some kind of weird gain. And Tyler Adams doesn't seem that way either. I think Tyler Adams is completely transparent about what he's doing, because as soon as there's a bid from Chelsea, he's like, yeah, I'm down there for that. That's not a problem. And you know that he has international aspirations. He's the captain of USA. Where will he want to play? It will be a top league.
Bournemouth. It'll be Bournemouth.
It will be a top league. So that's what Bournemouth is. They're a Premier League club. So that's fairly obvious. It's not difficult to fathom that Wilf Gnonto, it's not like the Euros that he wants to play in for Italy have just been scheduled. These things, there are ways of working out. And if it was hope in the summer rather than commitment from those players, then building a squad, or not building a squad, around hope that they will play doesn't seem like the kind of thing that, if we're supposed to believe that these people are like expert planners who are getting third-party data companies to uncover all this stuff.
Let me stop you, because in that article, as one insider said, these folks just get it.
They do just get it. But that was about Wi-Fi in the ground, which I keep meaning to go back to the Wi-Fi in the ground
put
thing.
Wi-Fi in, because then we can check scores and do things at half-time.
Well, yeah, it was all about... this is a complete 90-degree turn, but it was all about... there was a view in the boardroom. Leeds is one of the few venues where fans keep their phones in their pockets and concentrate on backing their team for 90 minutes, rather than filming themselves pretending to celebrate.
You can do that without Wi-Fi.
Exactly. You don't need Wi-Fi to do it. So giving us Wi-Fi will not dictate whether anybody is filming themselves or not. Having a good team on the pitch will probably prevent people from filming themselves crying while they're trying to get through another 90 minutes as bad as the game against Birmingham was.
While licking the pie off the wall.
Yes, which is one way of... I wonder if that's what Birmingham will suggest their fans. Go and clean it your fucking selves.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I'm still, being of a relaxed mind. I'm interested to know more about what they thought was going to be happening this summer.
I think they naively thought that people would want to spend money on some players they could have for free for a season. I think they probably thought, we'll go down, but yeah, Harrison's going to have this in his deal, but someone will come in and just say, no, we want him, and we'll pay 25 million quid for him. Whereas obviously, what you would do is go, well, can we have him
for free for a year?
Can we just pay his wages?
Pay his wages, pay a loan fee, lower FFP for us.
Yeah, can we just not pay very much and still have him? Ideally not. Can you buy him? And they've gone, well, yeah, but his contract says this, so no, we'll just have him on loan for a year. Thanks very much.
And that's the thing, is it's not even...
just us talking about this, by the way, we should say that the drilling and the hammering has started below us in the work in the offices below, which feels appropriate somehow. Just the sound of you being drilled into.
I'm always wary of a hindsight scenario, but not when it feels foreseeable, and not when it's being presented as Marathe was when he was talking on the LUTV podcast, that, we're experts in this. This is our wheelhouse. We can negotiate contracts in our sleep.
So he wasn't running the show then, though.
No, he may not have negotiated the contracts that are causing the problems now, but he presented himself as the person who can sort out all the problems that those contracts could create. And we are not dealing with the problems that those contracts have created. Who signed off on the contracts is one part of the problem. The response to them is the second part of it. And the response to them has been basically to sit on their hands and
hope for the best.
And hope for the best, and hope that Somerville doesn't get injured and that Gnonto doesn't refuse to play. And that, where would we be if Jan Paveda hadn't looked good in pre-season?
Same position now, we'd just be playing someone who didn't look good in pre-season.
Right.
I mean, where I was going with Morata wasn't in the room to negotiate those contracts, is that we know someone who was, or should have been.
Yeah, but just before we get to that, actually, it's now looking pretty bad that he's talked about them being in the back seat and just having to watch what's going on and not really liking it. I don't think that's the big W that they think it is now, because it strikes me as a minority owner that has just watched this unfold in front of them, or didn't spot the fucking flaw in the plan.
It would have been a dub if they had sorted it out.
Yep.
It's fine to say, we were in the back seat, and he said, I've made a lot of notes. I've got a lot of notebooks that will of like how we can do things. But apparently none of those
for the best.
Yeah,
notebook.
None of those notebooks seem to have had anything to deal with what is the biggest problem we have at the moment, which is that all the things that you could have predicted happening, all these players, let's say all the things you could have predicted the players wanting to do are now happening in August. And there's an element, Farker keeps talking about the driving seat. Morata is on about piloting a plane, lots of travel metaphors. We need a train driver involved. Farker is talking about getting back control of the steering wheel and being in the driver's seat. And that could have been done. Like, if you can sell players, like that's the one thing, you don't have to wait for players to decide what to do.
But they're saying that the market for the players has collapsed. That's the point. Is they're saying that relegation was so damaging to so much of the squad that nobody wants to buy them, and doesn't want to buy them in a situation that would not hammer our FFP.
The
so
players,
it's better to take the slightly lower loss of FFP by loaning them out, such as is the case with Brendan Aronson, than to say sell him at a loss and have that loss crystallised forever in the accounts.
I think, but the players that are causing the late problems now, with like Harrison leaving after the season starts, waiting for Adams to go, possibly for has Adam got a fee? He's got a loan clause as well, wasn't he? But Chelsea were just going to buy him, weren't they?
By the sounds of it, most of them have got both, but nobody wants to buy the shite.
There could have been, I feel like there could have been more done to move those players on earlier in the window, or at least to just decide that they were out of the equation. Injuries have possibly played a part there as well. But make this...
Who could have possibly foreseen Pat Bamford getting injured?
But who could have possibly foreseen Luis Sinisterra wanting to go back to Feyenoord? Make a decision on that earlier. And with the weakness of our negotiating position because of the loan clauses, I don't think it materially weakens our negotiating position. Anyway, we're not going to be able to sell Luis Sinisterra for any decent price because he's got a loan clause. So just regard that loan clause as triggered and move as if he's going, because with that loan clause, I said it about Harrison in the Daily Emails the other day. If I'd known that loan clause was there, I might have put a bid in for him because I could probably afford him. I'd have him. Keep him away from Everton at least.
Anyway.
But it's so, like, the number of clubs who wanted Jack Harrison over the last few years, and then he's available essentially for nout. And if you do want to sign him permanently, then it's a very favourable deal that you can get him on a loan for a while for a cheap loan fee, and then do what we did with him, essentially, which is shove signing him into the future. Of course, Premier League clubs are going to come and want somebody who scores 8 goals a season, and why there isn't any sort of hint of signing some creativity in the final third to make up for that kind of departure is bewildering, especially when it's set against third-party data companies running analytical studies that are myth-busting.
And many.
Busting so many myths. Well, they haven't busted any...
That puff piece is looking ridiculous.
They haven't busted any myths. What is the myth that we're trying to bust here? Oh, actually, you can get promoted with hardly any good players.
Anyway, Michael's about to chuck Angus Kinnear under the bus, which should give us another chance to talk about him coming on the show in about another 2 or 3 weeks after the end of the window.
These are things he said.
Okay.
These are things he said. how am I to blame for digging them up?
I'm not saying you are to blame. It
was only a year ago as well. It wasn't a long time ago. Not like
a year is a long time in the game of football, as the saying goes.
It's not like I'm dragging out quotes from when he said that he thought Yusuke Ideguchi and Lawrence de Bock could be great for us in the Championship and the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Which happened.
That'd be mean if you said that.
I found that by accident actually, but I did then tweet it. But anyway, this is him talking to you. I think I was on holiday at the time.
What a surprise! Must be nice.
It was lovely, yeah. A year ago, but he was talking about Rafinha and Phillips leaving and about player power and stuff. And it seems like all the stuff about player power seems to have been forgotten. But this is what he had to say about it a year ago.
It's completely reality of the game. Ultimately, the player decides where he wants to go, and you can make that decision of saying, well, we're not going to sell the player, and you have that power. But then you have a player who is disgruntled. You haven't given him the opportunity. Potentially that in both of these cases, I think opportunities that they deserve. And then they're a depreciating asset because they're not going to re-sign a contract with you. Their contract's going to come down, and you're going to get less and less. Sadio Mane had a year left on his contract, went for 35. So you don't want to be in that position.
Willie Gnonto, anybody? Although Willie Gnonto does, in mitigation, Willie Gnonto has 4 years left. So
I think that is an interesting aspect. And Phil Hay mentioned Calvin and Rafinha leaving on the show on Monday, and they didn't have loan clauses. They just had clauses that made it easier for them to be sold for a reasonable fee.
We did not go down.
Yeah, we didn't go down, so we don't know that.
They may well have had loan clauses.
Phil said they had relegation transfer clauses, but he said as far as he was aware, they didn't have any loan clauses.
I feel like no one was aware of these loan clauses, though, until we went down, and then it was very clear everyone had a loan clause.
Yeah, they would have been loaned if they had a loan clause.
Yeah, I think what we would say, though, is that we will never know for sure either way, but the point stands, yeah.
And they were the truth is they probably were both good enough players that, they were signed by Barcelona and Man City.
That's the point, isn't it? Yeah, they would have been snapped up in the way that people are looking at Tyler Adams.
Barcelona would have absolutely loved to pay a loan fee for Rafinha because they were pulling economic levers all over the place. So let's have a working assumption that that the loan clauses didn't happen and we didn't get relegated either. So there was no way of triggering them because we didn't get relegated. Phil said they didn't have loan clauses, right?
Phil knows nothing.
But if we take this as one instance there, and maybe Phil does have the slightest hint of a clue, when did we start putting the loan clauses in would be an interesting question, because
as late as April by the sounds of it.
Well, that's when did we stop? But because once you've given it to one player and agents know that you're giving these clauses out, that it's 60% wage reduction, but you can get a loan away if the worst happens. Everybody wants that then. Then the next person to come along with a contract says, well, we're having those clauses because those all sound great. But if there was a time when the Phillips and Rafinha deals were always being presented publicly as, if we get relegated, we have to sell them for about half what we ended up getting. That's all anybody ever said publicly. So there may have been these loan clauses hidden away, but it seems not. So, and that would have been fine. I think if the situation now was with Harrison, with Adams, with Sinisterra, Meslier, that it was all just like flat. There is a fee that's, we at least get back the money we spent on them, maybe a bit more if we're very lucky. Represent that. The Adams sale fee that basically pays us back for what we paid for him is fine. Although I do keep remembering when it came, wasn't there loads of stuff about we only signed Adams on loan in the first place anyway? So
I think it's probably more, I think Wise maybe got crossed there in that we didn't pay anything for him in the first year and it's all become due later on. But anyway, let's move on to the next clip then, because Michael's got a couple to get through. Go on.
This is just him talking about transfers and squad strength.
Yep.
Again, remember this is a year ago. So he's talking about the fact of selling Rafinha and Phillips and actually saying, which I guess was part of the strategy, saying how it's a good way of building our profile to sell players to big clubs.
Right, okay.
I think the squad is stronger than it was last season. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is we can use it as a competitive advantage in recruitment at both academy level and by signing younger, unknown players in the transfer market, because we have case studies for them about what a platform Leeds United can be. And ultimately, we don't want to be selling our best players, but if we can recruit players both at academy level and at international level by telling them, Leeds is a fantastic club to elevate your trajectory to go and ultimately to go and play at the top levels of the game. That's a competitive advantage, and that'll make Leeds United better.
Because people want to hear that it's going to be us that gets to, take them on that trajectory. But is that just not a reality? Is Leeds just simply not wealthy enough right now?
It's not about wealth. It's partly about wealth, but it's more about footballing success. I mean, the reality is, Newcastle United have exactly this issue. Newcastle United have no boundaries in terms of the money that they could spend other than financial fair play. But they have the challenges of the best players in the world don't want to go and play in a team for 2 years, which is going to be upper mid-table in the Premier League. They want to be playing for Champions League teams, and so that's we are evolving. We are being able to sign better players and retain better players than we have previously. I mean, I think the first 3 transfers I did when I started at Leeds United was selling people to Burnley. We're not doing that anymore.
Nope, we're trying to buy them from Burnley.
We're trying to loan them to Burnley.
Selling them to Bournemouth as well now. Oh dear, that has aged like milk, hasn't it? That
Newcastle, poor sods, all struggling away, aren't they?
Because what they did is they invested, invested to a silly level when they needed to, but not beyond what we've spent, I don't think, since we've come up. And they got in the Champions League, and that's enabled them to buy better players.
Yeah,
bit unfortunate for Angus, that, isn't it?
Well, I think the whole thing is we've had several years of the people running Leeds talking a good game about stuff like this, because you're essentially talking about doing what Brighton do, where you go to a player, when you said internationally, you go and find some player in an underrated league, and you say, if you come to play for Leeds in the Premier League and demonstrate you're a good player, you'll get a move to a Champions League club. And that's exactly what Brighton do. But Brighton have 2 advantages. One, they're much better at finding the players, and they always they pride themselves on looking like a few leagues ahead. So they're looking in leagues where nobody is looking for players according to them, and then they bring them to the Premier League, and they're brilliant, and they make them better, and they put them in a team with an exciting manager, and they win loads of games, and everyone wants them. And then when other clubs come along and want to buy them, they don't let them go for peanuts. So Brighton it's exactly the same stuff as Leeds have been talking about for years, with the big difference that Brighton have been really, really good at it, and we've been really, really bad at it.
And Angus, they're talking about players in the previous clip, talking about players deserving moves. Bollocks to them. Why are we helping them get their big moves? Fine. Rafinha was good for us, and maybe he came in on a promise of do a couple of years, you'll get your big move. That's fine. Still, look after the club first. Bollocks to the players. They'll be fine.
The other point moves on to as well in the second clip about the giving players a platform to, change their trajectory and maybe kind of bring them on a level, which you can see how that works if you're good. You can also see how a player sees the trajectory heading towards the Championship and thinks, "Fuck, get me off this trajectory. I need to immediately leave this because this is not what I signed up for."
Which is why they have a loan clause to make it easy for them to get out.
I did laugh at the idea that they can sell like this trajectory to young players, and I couldn't help but like think in my mind of the end of the Spurs game where everyone's singing, "You're not fit to wear the shirt," to all the dickheads who took us down.
It's also
there's your trajectory.
Worth remembering that one of those trajectories was captured on camera in the Calvin Phillips documentary, which was produced and paid for and made by Andrea Ratrizzani's film production company. And the whole point of that is that he's been taken from the streets of Leeds through a youth system and sold to Manchester City so all his dreams can come true. And with the other series that the same studios did, Neo Studios, Academy Dreams, which is all about young footballers at the academy, and then they get this pathway through and their dreams come true as footballers. So that's all, propaganda pieces that you can show to a player and go like, oh, if you're thinking about coming to Leeds, have a watch this Calvin Phillips documentary on Amazon, and you'll see how we looked after him and we got him to have his big move to Manchester City. But who else has that worked for? That's the problem. It worked for Calvin Phillips because Bielsa got hold of him and turned him into a really good player. But, I don't want to pick on any of our under-21s in particular, but there's not like a big queue of players following him to Manchester City and Liverpool and Newcastle and Arsenal. They're all...
Well, none of them have made an impression, have they, really? To any great extent?
No, and you do wonder how come Brighton can have so many young players making positive impressions and getting those moves, whereas our youth system, I mean, one of the problems last season is that we brought in a new under-21s manager in Skubala, and then within 6 months he's having to work for the first team because we've sacked the manager who supposedly had a good track record of blooding youth, but would have rather done anything apart from give Joe Gelhardt more than about 2 minutes at the end of a game. So he had to go to Sunderland and make the best of it. So you can see how Leeds have tried to position themselves on, it's probably the model that they've finally settled upon, is the Brighton model, but have just made such
dog's dinner.
Yeah, such a mess of the whole thing that it's, yeah, that's the problem. Good idea.
Bad execution.
Bad execution.
Yeah. Right, final clip then. This was a question, the big question. Did I ask this a year ago, this big question?
You did. Let's see if it's still relevant.
So do you think we'll get either a forward player or a left back?
I think there is, the funding is there, the will is there, but at the same time, I think there is we know we can't make the mistake of getting someone who doesn't work, so we're not gonna panic, and we're not gonna get somebody who we don't think's got a real chance of success, because for a club of Leeds United standing, the things which are going to go killers from both a footballing perspective and a financial perspective is transfers that don't work, and we've got to do absolutely everything we can to minimise that.
I took that to mean we've already spent money on Junior Firpo. We have to make this work.
Bamba Dieng's on the line as well, and they're not panicking. But
well, Jorginho Rutter is the big counter argument to that, because in what sense did he ever work? We wanted in that window, January, Shea Adams, really, didn't we? Or equivalent, just a solid £5 million, £10 million striker. So we've got a 35 million pound, 20-year-old, 21-year-old winger. So this whole thing, like, we've got to be very, very careful about the players that we bring in and resale value. I mean, it was always from the start mystifying what is the resale value going to be if you're starting at 35 million, and what were the outgoing fees for Phillips and Rafinha? Like 50 each?
It was 42 for Calvin.
And 55 was it for Rafinha?
I think 50-ish for Rafinha.
50-ish.
So even if they reach that level, the profit that you're making is not even substantial.
Although I think, in fairness, the router, wasn't it 25 up front and then there's 10 million of add-ons or something?
But I guess so the expectation, for it to be worthwhile, we've got to be selling him for like over 50 million quid. And now we're in the Championship, and unless somebody really values air kicks, it's not working so far.
Poor Jorginho.
I think the last clip as well, I think it's just because it stuck in my mind, because I think I ended the match ball by saying, buy a left back, buy a striker, Pat Bamford's never going to be fit, Junior Firpo's never going to be good, and that's essentially where we were a year ago, and here we still are. With Sam Byram now, who is admittedly better than Junior Firpo.
I mean, that's the big difference, and it kind of goes back to it's a shorthand away of what I was whittering about before, but it doesn't seem insurmountable that we could have had 4 more players like Ampadu by now, regardless of what the outgoing players want to do. It doesn't seem like that would be a stretch on FFP or a stretch on what the 49ers could afford, or it would be that would blow up in our faces if suddenly Tyler Adams wants to do X instead of Y, and we would just have a better team if we had the Ethan Ampadu of being a striker, or even Joe Rodon alone. You know, if we had 4 players throughout that team who were here on a season-long loan, who were same reasonable quality of Joe Rodon, who, you know, maybe he's going to be playing up front, so maybe that is all sorted. But that's just what it needed, is just to have some insurance there, because at the moment, maybe these players are all lined up. Farke still speaks with great confidence about the things that Leeds are doing behind the scenes, but even like they're even bad at feeding stories to the press, like when they got Graham Smith to print the thing on Monday afternoon about, they're still hoping that Tyler Adams will stay, and then TikTok. Tyler Adams is going to Bournemouth. It's like, you're not even good at feeding a line. And yeah, so it's and so when what is revealed feels that bad, it's difficult to have the faith that Farke says we should have in what we're not seeing. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's all going to be brilliant.
They're working unbelievable hard.
They are working unbelievable
Let's
hard.
wrap up the show. It's gone on quite long enough now. Let's finish with the Anfield agenda. Just to say, we've got some more propaganda clips over on the member show this week. We've got some Jesse.
I've deliberately found a clip of Jesse that'll make Moscow angry.
Good. Look forward to that. We'll record that straight after this.
Just who I want to be hearing from right now.
Yeah. But we'll finish on Anfield agenda. And this is a clip that's been doing the rounds on Twitter over the weekend, which it's the comedy timing of this, isn't it? It's the run up and then the payoff at the end is absolutely delicious. And makes us thankful, I think, that here in the poxy EFL, we don't have to deal with VAR.
Oh, ball slipped in. Mo, Molazzo! 2-0! Woo! 2-0! Ice cold, ice in his veins. Woo! Mohamed Salah, the Egyptian king, rips the defence apart. It is Chelsea 0, Liverpool 2. Are you watching Caicedo? Woo! Your boys are taking a hell of a... He's offside. He's offside, probably, lads. I think he's offside.
Just the change of pace and the realisation.
I do like Malazzo. It's pretty good.
Never heard that before.
No.
It's a portmanteau, isn't it, of Mohamed and Golazzo.
I'll try to think of which players that would work with for us, but one of them needs to score.
Bamlazzo?
Or stay.
Anyway, we will wrap it up there. Thank you for joining us on this week's propaganda. I hope you feel better that we've... cathartic it felt that, actually, just to get some of that off our chest. I'm almost looking forward to West Brom on Friday.
We'll beat them 16 seconds.
Yeah, we'll preview that with Phil later in the week after the press conference. We'll see you soon.
The Square Ball Podcast.